What if I told you you could quit your job and make $10,000 more this year, guaranteed? Would you do it? Probably. I'm here to say this is more likely than you think. Back in the day, people used to work at one place most of their careers. There was honor in being a company man. Job hopping was frowned upon. A resume filled with short-term job positions was equivalent to someone saying, all my exes are crazy. A major red flag. But this slowly changed, and in modern times, it's estimated that most workers will have 12 jobs over the course of their lives. This is partly due to the pandemic making everyone question everything.
Are we truly happy with our career, or is there another opportunity out there that's better suited to us and that would make us feel more fulfilled?
Luckily for folks like her, job hopping hasn't just become more common, it's actually starting to look like a wise move. This is the concept of strategically quitting. Funny story, I thought I made up that phrase, strategic quitting. I was like, this is the perfect phrase, the perfect tagline for this video. There we go. But then I searched it to make sure that this hasn't been used before. I wasn't even close. In fact, it's way worse than that. It turns out I read a book in 2019 that uses this phrase repeatedly. My brain just decided to go with it and convince me that I invented this term. I feel betrayed. So I would like to let everyone know, including myself apparently, that I did not invent the phrase strategic quitting. But what it means is using some simple tactics for making the most out of your career and your earnings. This concept of strategic quitting is broader than just people quitting their jobs, but the advice certainly applies to careers, and it's advice people are taking. If you look at the numbers, people are switching jobs in record numbers. A survey from 2019, so pre-pandemic, revealed that nearly half of the respondents had made a big career shift, like from marketing to engineering or teaching to finance. And from those who hadn't, 65% said they were considering it. And this is before the pandemic hit. Since then, those statistics have just exploded. The numbers now say only 14% of Americans feel like they have a great job and aren't looking to change it, while around 70% are actively looking for a new gig as we speak. All that is to say, if you're thinking about changing jobs or switching to a new field, you are definitely not alone, and you might be onto something here. But here's the thing, even if you're not thinking about quitting, it might be a good idea to start considering it. You know that old saying, winners never quit and quitters never win? Turns out it's total bullshit. Winners quit all the time. It's part of the reason why they're winners.
Winners quit the right stuff at the right time.
The difference between when a winner quits and a quitter quits is one is strategic and one is reactionary.
Basically, the whole idea around strategic quitting is that in order to meet your fullest potential, you have to constantly let go of things that are holding you back. Stuff that's a dead end, a job, a relationship, a specific project. If it's not going anywhere, if you can feel it draining your resources and your spirit, quit that right now, like quit it.
Hey, listen, I quit.
Going back to that book that my brain stole from, The Dip, Seth Godin writes that strategic quitting is a conscious decision based on the choices available to you. If you realize you're at a dead end compared with what you could be investing in, quitting is not only a reasonable choice, it's a smart one. But hold on, because not all quitting is good. The opposite of strategic quitting is reactive quitting. It's a trap, one that a lot of us fall for. It's quitting as a knee-jerk reaction to something that's hard or makes you angry. It's not premeditated, it's not beneficial. And then there's coping. Think about something that you've attempted that wasn't quite working out. Maybe a new side hustle or a creative project with friends. Something that you kept putting effort into and you just couldn't bring yourself to move on from that. Even though it was draining you of all your life and happiness. That feeling, just kind of trudging through, that's coping. And all it does is waste your time and energy. A key element of coping is that you're convincing yourself that incremental little improvements make the grind worth it. As Godin writes, if the best you can do is cope, you're better off quitting. Quitting is better because it frees you up to excel at something else. Really, all of this is about opportunity cost. By pursuing one option, you're always, by necessity, foregoing something else. And the sad fact is that we're not always so great about weighing these kinds of options. Our brain that often tells us the wrong choice is the best one. One of my biggest enemies personally is the sunk cost fallacy. Basically, if you've spent a ton of money or time on something, you think you should just keep doing it because, hey, look at everything I've spent on this. That's why the goal should always be to realize when your current path isn't working out. cutting your losses, and then spending that time and energy somewhere else. I have the perfect trick for this that I will explain in a minute, because first we need to redefine this whole quitting thing. Experts in labor and psychology are gravitating towards the idea that we should redefine career as working a shorter time. Think 7 to 12 years in a given industry, and then moving on to something else. Now there's some obvious benefits to this, like money. Some workers increase their salary by 80% simply by switching over to a new company. That's insane to me, just money sitting there ready to grab. But others aren't so obvious. By leaving before things start to get stale, you're keeping yourself from getting complacent or bored. You're helping ensure you're always doing something you love, or at least something you like. You're also creating a new and ideally better version of yourself with each and every job iteration. And one way to do this is by diversifying, having a secondary career alongside your main one to test the waters. And then maybe at some point down the line, it could take over your primary gig. I recently advocated for this for my friend Dan. Maybe you recognize him from a few of my videos.
You don't squat with your feet this close together.
It's called a sissy squat. Just to ask the question.
I offered him a job a few months back, but told him to keep his current job to make sure he likes this new one. So he did both for a few months before officially telling me, hey, you're the worst boss I've ever had and I hate this new job. I'm kidding. He quit his old job and now went full time. And he makes more money and gets to work like this from home every day. Now real quick, let me tell you about my membership group, Finova. There you get access to additional videos, winning trade signals, and live coaching calls every single day. The type of content you can't get anywhere else. Basically, it's like my OnlyFans, but it's not an OnlyFans. I cannot stress this enough. So when we say spread, we're talking about the difference between a stock's bid and asking price. And when we say loads, we're talking about the sales charges on mutual funds. And when we say bear and bull, we're talking about the markets. And when we say top-down, bottom-up approaches, we're talking about who came up with these terms. Join Finova, link down below, get 7 days free. Basically, you can look at having multiple careers in two ways, as an unfortunate reality or an opportunity to explore what matters to you and expand the possibilities of your life. And let's not forget about the money, because the numbers here look pretty enticing. Well, workers who stay at a company can typically expect a raise of about 1.3 to 4.5% each year. Leaving your company for a new job in the same field can mean a pay increase of 20 to 50%. Those are typical numbers. That means the average worker could instantly make $10,000 to $30,000 more each year. And this goes for business owners too. I've owned businesses my whole life, and what I've done is constantly keep my eye out for the next 10x opportunity. I had a pool cleaning company, then I had a moving company, and then I started exploring media.
I'm going to try to learn how to spin a pen.
On each and every switch, I kept my current gig at least until I confirmed I could make 10 times more money than the one I was giving up. And not everything works. Within this progression is probably a dozen or so things I tried and realized wouldn't work, so I quit and then moved on to something else. Also, my tip from earlier to battle the sunk cost fallacy. What I do is ask myself, if I knew everything I know now about this business, job, relationship, or whatever, would I have started it in the first place? If the answer is no, it's time to get out immediately. Now, if you're digging this idea and ready to start making some moves, there's a few things that you need to keep in mind. First, if you're moving into a different field, don't be deterred by what you don't know. Here's a hint. No one knows what they're doing at first. This might be a frowned upon story, but I had that pool cleaning business, right? Well, the very first time I ever cleaned a pool, period, was for a client who was paying me to do so. I was literally there at their pool looking at notes and bookmarks about what to do. And guess what? I ended up building that business and selling it for over 6 figures like 3 years after that very first job. Plus, check this out. A survey of recruiters found that about 70% of employers are willing to train the right candidate. You don't need to know everything. And if you're not sure exactly what kind of career you should go for, it's worth checking out the fastest growing occupations, stuff that's in high demand because it's going to be easier to get a job. It's also worth aiming towards a field or organization that aligns with your core values, the kind of stuff that you really care about. Research shows that the top predictor of career satisfaction isn't pay, but the culture and values of that organization. Then when you're actually in the process of going after that new gig, especially if it's in a new field, focus on transferable skills for your resume and for interviews. Think stuff like customer service, problem solving, collaboration, and communication, and have some examples of those skills ready to go, anecdotes or specific examples of those skills in action. Maybe the time you set your workplace on fire in order to make sure everyone knows the proper procedures. Okay, that's an episode of The Office.
Fire shooting at us! What's the procedure?
Another thing, don't be afraid of learning new skills. It might seem daunting, but going back to school, getting a certification, or otherwise investing in your own education can really pay off here. Skills seriously do pay the bills. I like the quote from Alvin Toffler, who said, "The illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn." Now, lastly, don't feel like you need to do this all at once. The average worker takes almost a full year to consider their options before making a career change. Researchers say the worst time to quit is when you're actively feeling the most difficulty from your job. So if you're able to, take the time to prepare, plot out your options, and try to test the new gig before quitting the current.
Use this surge of fear and adrenaline to sharpen your decision making.
It's become kind of cliche, but the truth really is that a lot of people don't find success until later in life. Vera Wang, Henry Ford, and Julia Child are just some of the incredibly successful people who tried out multiple jobs before landing on the one where they really hit it big. But I don't want to make this all sound like it's a walk in the park.
Strategic quitting is a very dangerous idea when thoughtlessly applied.
Quitting is hard and extremely scary, and sometimes objectively not the right move. So don't do anything rash, carefully consider your situation before making any moves, and run the numbers on how much financial insecurity you can handle if things don't pan out.
I would like you to crunch those numbers again.
But at the same time, remember that there's also a massive cost in playing it safe. Michelangelo says the greatest danger for most of us is not that our aim is too high and we miss it, but that it's too low and we reach it. Pretty quotes aside, the numbers don't lie. Almost 90% of people who've switched careers say they're happier after making the move. So do your homework, think deeply about what you actually want, dip a toe into a new path, and by the time you've done it, quitting won't feel like a leap of faith, but the logical next step.